Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Brimlow, and I'd like to talk to you today and teach you about how to estimate square roots of non-perfect square numbers. So you should have downloaded and have been memorizing the list of perfect squares and perfect cubes I gave you. You can use that resource throughout this unit. You should not be using a calculator because we are assessing you on your multiplication skills and division skills, and especially with this next particular topic we're going to learn today. So in order to estimate square roots of non-perfect squares, we need to know what our perfect squares are. So once again, you should have that resource out and you should be utilizing that throughout this unit. So I'm going to list our first 15 perfect squares. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 81. Oh, sorry, skipped one. 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, 196, and 225. So these are our first 15 perfect squares. You should know up to 20 and also 25, but we'll leave it like this for now. So let's say I was asked to find the square root of 37. I'm going to restart that. Square root of 37. 37 is not a perfect square. There is no integer, so it's positive or negative whole number, I could multiply by itself to get 37. So that means it has to be somewhere between two of my perfect square roots. So the smallest square root that comes before 37 is 36, and the one right after is 49. The square root of 36 is 6, and the square root of 49 is 7. So the square root of 37 is somewhere between these two numbers, so it's going to be a decimal, okay? So I actually have to determine which number is 37 closest to, 36 or 49. Well, it's only 1 away from 36, and it's 12 away from 49. So that tells me that it's going to be closer to 6, my final answer. So I would say acceptable estimates. Once again, we are estimating. I'd say an acceptable estimate would be something like 6.1 or maybe 6.2. Anything larger than that is a little far off, especially if you were to guess something like 6.9. That wouldn't even be accepted because we know that 37 is much closer to 36, meaning that the square root has to be closer to 6 versus 7, okay? So let's try another one together. Let's try the perfect square of 111. So I look for the two perfect squares right around the one I'm looking for. So this would be 100, and this would be 121. So that means it's somewhere between 10 and 11. Your non-perfect square roots are always going to be decimals. So I have to see, what is this closer to? I like to think of that as a little number line. 10.5 is in the middle. So if I add 11, I get from 100 to 111. And if I add 10, I get from 111 to 121. You can see that 111 is almost right in the middle of these two numbers. However, it's a tad closer to 121. So I would guess that this is about 10.5 or 10.6. Wrote those backwards, but about 10.5 or 10.6. It's pretty close to being in the middle, and if you type that into a calculator right now, it might say 10.5 and then a long list of numbers. So I would accept either 10.5 or 10.6. Now, if you gave me 10.1, that's not close enough. If you gave me 10.9, not close enough. If you gave me 11.2, definitely wrong. 111 is less than 121, so it has to be less than its square root. Just like it's bigger than 100, meaning it has to be bigger than its square root, making it between 10 and 11. So these three guesses would be completely off. This would be acceptable, okay? Let's do one more together. Let's do... we'll do every number I keep coming up with, it's so close to a perfect square. Let's do 68. Square root of 68. So the two perfect squares that's between are 64, which is 8, and 81, which is 9. So the square root has to be somewhere between there. So if I add 4 to 64, I get to 68. I'd have to add 13 in order to get to 81. So clearly the square root of 68 is closer to 8. So I would accept a guess of 8.1, 8.2, or even maybe 8.3. Anything above that would be a little too large. Once again, you only need to give me one estimate. I'm just showing you that I would accept multiple answers since we are estimating. So if you have any other questions on this lesson, you should be coming to office hours, rewatching the video, sending an email, or scanning through some notes that I will provide for you in this lesson. So we will chat again soon.